Okay, cool. Let's go into the Xbox Series X because they had embargo lift. Microsoft just sent Xboxes to people. Like they sent it to like larger outlets, media, press, and all of this. But then they've also started sending it to people on YouTube and on Twitter and everything. So you see a lot of pictures going up right now. It seems like Microsoft is just handing out Xbox Series X's left and right to get actual like opinions and thoughts on it from people independently, which is cool. It's a bit different than what's happening with Sony right now, which I believe we're going to have previews and hands-on come out tomorrow, but it's from a very controlled environment of them allowing to play, I think, 3 games? I think they had Godfall, and they had Astro Playroom, and strangely enough, I think it was Balan Wonderland or Wonderworld.
We're going to see the UI? We're going to see the UI tomorrow? Are they going to show us that?
I have to imagine they will, because they have to start the system up, right? Or are they just going to keep the camera off of it and then they go to it? Like, I don't know, but it's a very different approach from both companies right now. Anyway, people have the Xbox Series X. They're only playing current games because there's no next gen game to play. So they want them to do backwards compatibility. And I'm pretty impressed from some of the things that are out there. Digital Foundry did a lot of good stuff. Jeff Grubb did a lot of really good stuff, showcasing transfer times between the hard drive back and forth and all of that. So it doesn't seem too bad. But the frame rate on some of these games are like Sekiro actually looks really good. It's not quite 60 across the board, but it's like in the upper 50s and then 60 at times. We saw Grand Theft Auto 4 is actually 60 frames now on it, and the load times are pretty good. And none of this is optimized for the Series X. These are just games that they pop in, and then it just basically brute forces its way to these frame rates and performance. So, what do you guys think of some of the videos and some of the thoughts from people on the Series X so far?
Very impressive with what I've seen so far. It just kind of reinvigorates the whole message and discussion about what backward compatibility is. So I think from what we've seen so far, and it's great that Microsoft's letting the reviewers and the media kind of just test the system and just play around with it. And I know they've got a library of games they can pick from, so they can't just like play everything. But it seems really impressive from what I've seen so far. And actually, Jeff Grubb's video, in my opinion, was probably the best one that I got the most information out of, because he kind of went pretty deep with the loading times and the transfer of games from external to internal and all that stuff, and the frame rate analysis. Obviously, Digital Foundry did a great job as well, but. Nah, man, I think it's very impressive tech, and I can't wait to see more of it. I'm very hyped about it.
Seems like a good drop-in replacement right away for like the One X, or if you still have the VCR like Nate, dude, I think it's gonna be like a spaceship showing up to your house. Like I can't believe you're still on that VCR, Nate. But like from what you saw, what'd you think, since you're gonna be replacing the oldest Xbox One right now?
Yeah, it's promising. So I mean, that's the thing. I can return to a lot of these games, like a Monster Hunter World, and I'll get all these benefits where I can get 1800p 60 frames a second, and that would be a pretty big leap from what I have on the standard Xbox. So almost every game from the current gen, I'm going to get those 4K, those resolution boosts, and it's going to be an entirely new experience for me. I guess for those with the One X, that leap is going to be a little less, but for me, it's basically a whole new generation. So that's exciting. Only problem is I have to get a pre-order in of a Series X, and there's no more of those available. So that sucks. But it's I like what Microsoft is doing here. They're really positioning backwards compatibility as a system selling feature. If you have Game Pass, you're going to get access to so many backwards compatible games, and then what you already own, and you're going to return to a lot of these games. And the fact that we're seeing this performance from unoptimized ports or backwards compatibility is pretty staggering. It's going to be kind of game changing, and their focus is so sharp for backwards compatibility that you really have to look at Microsoft and just applaud them for the commitment to backwards compatibility and how they've said we're going to add HDR to original Xbox games. In some cases, they won't if they think the game looks bad. They're going to increase frame rate from 30 to 60, or in some cases 60 to 120. They're really committed to making backwards compatibility and embracing their legacy in a strong way. And we know Sony's going to have backwards compatibility in a boost mode of some sort. If the boost mode is similar to what we saw on the PlayStation 4 Pro, then we should get similar results with some games where they automatically will boost to the highest frame rate possible and the resolution, as long as the frame rate was uncapped. But Sony has yet to detail that to anybody, and Microsoft is saying, play these games, experience them in their best way, and the media and everyone's walking away saying, wow, this is awesome. And Sony's sitting there in silence.
Yeah, like as we get closer to release, like launch of the system, we'll see like Assassin's Creed and some other games pop up, I'm sure, for review ahead of their release. I'm curious because Watch Dogs Legion comes out at the end of October.
Yeah, some of them come out before the hardware, right?
I almost wonder if they take that and they pop it into their Xbox Series X, even as a prototype model, if it'll grab like the next gen one early, so for them to check out. I don't know, but because they're basically putting it on the same disc from what I remember, and it's just basically grabbing it the right one with smart delivery. But like Yakuza Like a Dragon will take advantage of the Series X, and that's a next gen timed exclusive for Microsoft. It's coming out on the PS5 in March. So unfortunately, that's the only game I'm thinking of right now that I'm like, yeah, that's where I would play it, like only play it there. Like it's on the PS5, there's Demon Souls. That's the only game, right? Astro's Playroom and Sackboy. But
I think what really gets me excited about the Series X now is, even if you pick up a system on launch day, assuming you got a pre-order in and you're going to get one, and you don't buy any games for it because there's no new first-party games available, or you don't want to play the next generation of third-party games, you can log into your Xbox Live account, and assuming you've got a back catalog of games, I mean, they're all there waiting for you, and I mean, they're all going to play very, very well. And in some instances,
I agree.
It's like, for me, there are some games I just never bothered playing because I wasn't happy with performance and stuff like that. Like Sekiro was one that I didn't play because I was never too thrilled about just the choppy frame rates it had. That's probably a little unfair to say that, but you know what I'm talking about. It never held its frame rate. It never locked at 60 or anything like that.
It was like 30.
Yeah, it was kind of all over the place,
it was pretty bad. Yeah, on the Xbox.
But now, and I know it's not locked at 60, but it's pretty close to locked at 60. So that's a game for me that I'm immediately thinking about picking up and playing, because now it's at that point where I definitely want to play it now. So just going back and revisiting some games, or maybe playing some games you didn't play on last gen or this gen, I think that's pretty powerful. So I'm all about it.
I just like they were showing the system kind of jumping around, and it's very quick in the OS. That's what I was.
Yep.
The Xbox One X is like super sluggish at times. Just playing the thing and starting it up. And
the launch game that I'm most excited to play is Borderlands 3 is getting a 4K 60 frames per second update on Xbox Series X day one. So there are so many games that
play
people
with me?
missed. Yeah, sure. Once I get I know.
Did you see they're adding split screen to it too? I think it's like 3-player for the Series X. Even that was like interesting.
Did you guys see Final Fantasy 15 on the Xbox Series X is at 60 frames per second?
Dude, that looks incredible. That's another game. That's another game. Yeah, that's another game that just I was never happy with the way it played, because it was just so choppy. And now I just want to play it, man. And I think Sekiro for me is probably the big one, but yeah, there are a lot of instances of games that look and play better, and now I'm all about revisiting those games.
And you can get all those games for like $60, right? If you buy Sekiro, Final Fantasy, and Borderlands, you can have games that honestly, like if you're looking at next gen, yes, there's the games that look a little bit better or whatever, or they look better, but a lot of these games, it's like law of diminishing returns. They already look really good. Like they already look really good, and they play even better than what they did. So these experiences, in my opinion, from what I've seen, don't seem too far off. So if you haven't played them, Xbox Series X is very enticing. It's like very appealing, because everybody hasn't played everything. I mean, some people have, but a lot of people haven't. I know I haven't played Borderlands. It's still wrapped, and I was just like, I just didn't play it. Final Fantasy 14 or sorry, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. I haven't beat all the content there. Sekiro is a game that I've watched people play to death all the way through, but I haven't played it. But I've watched people play a million times. So that I'm with MVG on that. I'm excited to kind of go back through and actually get really awesome performance on a lot of these games.
Also, the service-based games will be kind of big too. Like Destiny 2 is going to get a patch that'll push it to 60, and there are people who are really into Destiny 2 to where they will buy an entire console just to get that performance boost to 60. For like, you see it on Twitter. So like even things like that. And Microsoft dropped just Destiny 2 into Game Pass, so like all the content and everything. So I you know what, I think it's good from what we've seen so far. I just want to see, I think I'm just ready to see the next gen games at this point. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
It works all back, all that stuff. I'm ready to see like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just as an example, or Watch Dogs Legion, right? Those kind of games now, because it's going to be third parties that are going to show us next gen. It's not going to be Microsoft necessarily right now. So that's kind of where I'm curious. Like I want to see Cyberpunk on the Series X. Let's see what it can do with that, right?
Oh yeah, that's another game that I'm buying to play.
Yeah.
On I know it's not. We don't have the next gen version at the launch, but it's still going to be a little bit improved, and then we'll get the next gen version later for free updates. So
like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, let's see some of these games that are going to push these systems pretty hard now, and see what they can do.
You guys see the new commercial for it too?
Yeah, with Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah, it was playing in the NBA Finals. Man, that commercial was great.
Yeah, the game looks good. It looks good. So
set it on fire.
That's what I'm hoping for now. Is now we know all the backwards compatibility stuff works. It looks good. The OS is jumping around like crazy. So I'm ready to see the next gen games now.
What you know how they were showing the quick resume stuff, right? You can have 4 games in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've heard is it's like save states and emulators. If you're familiar with that, you just save the state. So how much space does one of those quick resume kind of files take up? And then if you got 4 of them, how much space does that take up on your hard drive?
Apparently the reason that the OS takes like 140 gigabytes or something.
Is it for that?
Apparently part of that is partition for quick resume. Yeah, because there's a limit to how many you can dump in. So apparently they just dump the entire game into like part of it into just RAM or memory on your SSD, and it just sits there until you go back to it.
Yeah, it's like save states, and I mean it's a great idea. And if you got a fast SSD, then it's going to resume pretty quickly. And I think it's a really cool piece of tech that they've come up with.
Yeah, so like that's why it's partitioned like that. So the SSD will just sit there with it. So I mean it's a cool idea, but I will admit I don't know how much I'm going to be jumping around between games. Like all at once.
I mean, I may have 2 games running, maybe, but I'm not going to have 4 games. That I'm flicking between.
The example I was given was, and I thought about this, like, yeah, that makes sense. If I'm playing Halo, or I'm playing a game, and I have Halo in the background, like where I'm sitting in a lobby, kind of off to the side, as long as I can keep that connection, I guess, and I don't have to restart the game. Like that would be a good idea because I can jump between a single player game and then jump into Halo when people are ready to play, and it's 5-6 seconds to jump in like that. Well, that would make sense for me then.
In Grubb's video, I think he had Fallout 76 where he quick resumed it, and it said couldn't connect. But I mean, it's Fallout 76, so maybe it wasn't connecting anyway, right?
Yeah, I would just be sitting in a lobby in Halo. I wouldn't even be playing. Like Fallout 76 is that always online. Like you got to be connected and sitting there in the world. I would just be in a little lobby on Halo, even if it was just the title screen. That might save me some time, I guess.
I mean, I think it would be kind of cool if you were playing a game and then you downloaded something off Game Pass or a demo that you wanted to try out and to have a quick look at. You pause, quick resume, jump into the game you want to try out, then go back. I mean, I could see that, but I don't know if I could ever have 4 games, loaded in the background. That's not my workflow at all when I'm playing games.
Yeah. That would be, I don't know. Maybe people jump around a lot. I'm not sure, but
I don't do all that. Jump around from so many games, but at least it's there, right? I mean, it's cool that it's.
You know what? You know where it would be good is if you have multiple people on the same Xbox, and like you want to step away for a minute, and you're like, I'm going to drop this in a quick resume.
So you're saying that the quick resume goes across profiles, so that
would be cool. Like if
that
would
be interesting. Yeah,
let me step away from that. I'm gonna drop this in the quick resume, and like you let your kid play Fortnite or something while you're running an errand, and they come back and you're like, all right, I'm gonna play Doom Eternal now, a real game. Put Fortnite away.
If it goes across profiles, then I could absolutely see you having more than 2 or 3 at the same time.
Yeah, that's probably the best case I could think of for a quick resume.